With hype building up for the Switch 2, a big question that a lot of people are asking themselves is, will my Switch 1 games work on the Switch 2? Or whatever the next console will be. Basically, will my old games be able to work on the new system? To which is a completely fair question considering that the Switch has sold over 1 billion pieces of software so far on the current gen Switch. To help answer this question, we're going to be looking at a few things, but starting with this article by GameRant. The title of this article was Nintendo Switch 2 update may hint at backwards compatibility, so spoiler alert, yeah, things are looking likely for the system to be backwards compatible. Essentially, the article goes on to say that the Switch successor will reuse Nintendo accounts in order to smooth out the transition between the consoles. Which should go without saying, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean backwards compatibility, but also what else could it mean? And for those of you who don't remember this graph, basically Nintendo did go out and post this, implying that what you buy and what you do with your Nintendo account will gain value over time as time progresses. So on that front, it honestly is looking quite likely like the next system should be backwards compatible. However, do we even have to worry about that? What did Nintendo do in the past? Now let's look at every console to see which console was backwards compatible and which one was not. To start off, let's just look at the home consoles, then we'll go into the handheld ones. Starting off right off the bat, we can tell that the NES is not backwards compatible because there's nothing for it to be backwards compatible with. The Super Nintendo also wasn't, neither was the Virtual Boy, yes I'll mention that one, neither was the N64 or the GameCube. But all of these all used different types of media. So NES had cartridges, but different cartridges than the NES, which had different cartridges than the Virtual Boy. And they also had a different cartridge than the N64. And then finally for GameCube, they swapped over to discs. But after that, Nintendo did start making their home consoles backwards compatible. So you could play GameCube games with the Wii, unfortunately only on the earlier models. But then, yet again, for the Wii U, you could still play your Wii games on your Wii U. The only reason why the Switch is not backwards compatible is because they decided to cut off from the Wii and they were going into a brand new direction, which used, once again, a new type of media. Not new, it's just cartridges again. But now if we look at the handheld systems, we can see something very interesting. Almost every single console here is backwards compatible. Now, can the 3DS be playing Game Boy games? No, it can't, because Nintendo swaps media format almost every 2 business days, but that's beside the point. Basically, a trend that I've noticed is most consoles that are backwards compatible go back 1 generation. As we saw earlier, the Wii could play GameCube, the Wii U could play Wii, but the Wii U could not play GameCube. And you can see the exact same thing happening with the handheld consoles. So basically, the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, they were basically the same system. It was more just a half-gen refresh, if anything. So at the Game Boy Advance, you could still play your Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. And with the DS, you could still play your Game Boy Advance games as well. Except if you had a DSi, which was another mid-gen refresh where they removed the Game Boy slot, but starting right again with the 3DS, you could start playing your old DS games right off the bat. So as we can see, in the vast majority of the cases, when possible, Nintendo does tend to make their consoles backwards compatible to at least the previous generation. So to answer the question, will the next gen console be backwards compatible with your Switch games? The answer is most likely yes. Of course, there's no way to know for sure yet, but it is looking very likely. So with all of this being established, it kind of begs one last question. Is it even necessary? A while ago, I was listening to the Kit and Krista podcast when they kind of were talking about this, and Kit went and said that he doesn't necessarily think that it's necessary that the next console be backwards compatible, because the next console should be bringing great games, and I mean games that are so good that you don't even want to go back and play these old games. Now of course that was just being said so that it could be more like a hot take, which is a pretty spicy take. I personally think that the next console should be backwards compatible just as a good gesture from Nintendo. However, I know personally, once the next console comes about, chances are I'm probably not going to be playing Switch games for much longer. Personally, I love to collect Nintendo, so every time I'm done with a console, I never sell it, I just put it on the shelf, it collects dust for a while, and I dust it off. However, if I ever want to play these old games again, I will always boot up my old system. So even if this next console is backwards compatible, chances are I won't be playing my Switch games on it. I'll take out my Switch and play it on the Switch itself. I've always said that the Switch is a really good console for future-proofing in the sense of if ever I want to go and play a Switch game, let's say 20 years from now, all I need to do is find the charger, charge it, and I'm good to go because I can play in handheld mode. Whereas if I want to go and play my Wii U, I have to make sure I can locate, the console itself, the Wii U. I need to be able to locate the power brick for the Wii U. I need to be able to locate the gamepad for the Wii U. And I need to be able to locate the gamepad charger for the Wii U. The HDMI cup, of course, but those are easy to find. But still, it has all these pieces you need to be aware of where they are if you want to play them again in the future. With all that being said, I want to hear from you now. Do you think the next Nintendo console is going to be backwards compatible? And if so, are you going to be utilizing the feature at all? Make sure to like and subscribe and let me know in the comments. Until next time, Hua Dong!